Okay, hey everyone. I'm Brenton, and with me this week is Eddie. Welcome to Brenton's Question of the Week, questions that collectors think about but don't always ask. So, last week's question: how do you manage stress in collecting? Here are some of the responses from the community. Cash the Gemini said it takes time to have figure focus, know what you have a passion for, and not just buying a hyped collectible. Mojo Potato said, best way that I handle stress in this hobby is by first having a focus, next creating a budget and the amount that you're willing to spend on this hobby. I don't believe into going into credit card debt when buying pieces. I save a portion of each paycheck after paying my bills, of course, and set my savings aside so I can buy my statues in cash. Finally, have a planned strategy of where and how you want to display them. Stick to your allotted space. If your statues start overflowing into another room, maybe it's time to sell some pieces in order to get the newer statues. If you're not willing to sell to make space, then just be content with what you have and learn to enjoy other pieces from a distance. Hope this is able to help those new collectors out there. Joseph R. said, I found my biggest stress relievers in the hobby are focus, theme, budget, and learning to be content with what I have. It's easy to focus purely on what's next and not sit back and enjoy what we've all worked hard to acquire. The hobby doesn't need to be a project 100% of the time. Knight said, keep focus, visualize the direction you have for your collection, and appreciate pieces in other collectors' possession. Finally, Nathan Chafman said, stressors from life can be enough as is. Hobbies are meant to bring joy, not stress. If a hobby is bringing you stress, then maybe it's time to reevaluate your participation in it. We all stress about never having enough space or the continued rise in prices. This is normal. Anything other than that is too much in my opinion. I personally deal with space money stresses by planning well in advance with my available space. I'm typing this next to a mostly empty PAX unit, taking my time to determine if I truly want something, and budgeting as appropriate. Cheers. So thank you guys for all the great responses. Now this week I've been thinking about, should statue companies include where they pulled inspiration for statues from? And Eddie, would you like to give your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this is a good topic. Me and you have talked about a lot recently, basically because of certain statues coming out and people having different opinions on whether or not it's accurate or if it's sculpted the way it should be. And I think that it would be very helpful if companies shared the inspiration that they use to sculpt those statues. But then, as I was thinking about it, and something Matt brought up recently on a stream, he said that nowadays a lot of sculptors, like they'll send the sculptors the character and they'll let them kind of have like say on just a sculpt. I would like to see what they send the sculptors to say, like, oh, this is the character, it has to be in this pose, it has to be like this, or that might be something more that I'm more interested in, because I think nowadays they kind of give the sculptors free reign, like within the licensing requirements, I guess. So I wonder if it's the sculptors that are kind of just doing whatever they want, or if they have certain guidelines they have to go by, or if they use certain reference photos from comics and things. But I think it would be helpful. It would be helpful in the fact that it would create less speculation within the community. Like, oh, sometimes this character looks like this, sometimes it looks like that, sometimes with a lot of with the XM pieces nowadays, like Venom, Jean Grey, other ones that we haven't seen go up for pre-order, but we've seen pictures here and there. I think it would help create a lot less speculation and controversy between the collectors.
Yeah, I think you're right because, a lot of people have knee-jerk reactions when they see it. Like the first reveal, they're like, well, that doesn't look right. This doesn't look like the one I know, which
Yeah.
is, it may not be the perfect vision that you have in your head. And it's like, well, I base all my character references off of like this single thing. Like for X-Men, for me specifically, it's like X-Men the animated series. So if it doesn't look like that, I guess I'm out of depth there for a bit, and I would like to know kind of what they're pulling from so we can see, where is this coming from? The suit maybe isn't wrong, as like a lot of people just jump immediately out and they're like, well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And, I kind of agree with you that it'd be nice to get input from the sculptors. More behind the scenes stuff of like, why did you do this? Why did you make this decision? That kind of thing. Because it could be really interesting. Maybe it's a practical reason for whatever they did. To make the statue avoid leaning, or, what constraints did they have to work in? That stuff would be really interesting to know. And I think Sideshow does it a little bit. Like that's kind of who I've seen go back behind the scenes with like painting
Yeah.
and that kind of thing.
I was thinking of those videos that they put out of the painting or sculpting or little interviews here and there.
Yeah, and I think those would be great to have from other companies. And I'm not asking it for like every statue you put out, but I think like every, I don't know, I don't even know an arbitrary number to pick, but every once in a while give us some behind the scenes of like why these decisions were made,
or maybe just the
like you said, where you're pulling it from, what
maybe just the heavily like controversial pieces like Venom and Jean Grey and stuff. Like maybe if they don't have to do it for every piece, like you said, or a certain number of them, they can just, those ones that the community is very controversial on, they can put out pictures like, hey, this is, because XM's pretty communicative, or pretty open in the community with communication, like putting out pictures and things in their group. So yeah, every once in a while I'll put a post up that says like, hey, this is where these are the images, or this is where the sculptor got inspiration from, or this was the guidelines sent from Marvel that we tried to follow. And I don't think it's asking too much. I feel like the only people that might have an issue with that is the sculptors, like, because nowadays like artists, I don't even know how to word it, like their interpretation is like, it's art, so you kind of can't say like, oh well, we don't like it, you know what I mean? That's why I feel like sculptors might have a problem with it.
Yeah, but where should sculptors, like, why would you change a uniform like style? Like, why would you add armor here or something? Are they trying to make it more real world? Like when they adapt it to a statue and they're pulling it from whatever origin, whether it be comic book or movie or something or animated TV show, are they trying to real world everything? They're like, we don't want it to look comic booky.
Yeah, might just be XM. That might be feedback they get from XM, like put a little modern twist on it, or because a lot of their stuff is very modern, and like Sideshow seems to be a little more comic inspired, a little more classic. So maybe it is the licensor in that, or the maker in that case.
Yeah, I mean, this would all be great information to have or find out. This is an area I think it would help expand collecting, getting into this background stuff. It's like a special feature section for statues.
Yeah.
Or even figures, wouldn't it be interesting if they did it for figures as well? Of, what don't we, as we only see like the final products or solicitations, and there's probably so much that goes on that we don't even know about.
Yeah, sort of how it's made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, XM, Sideshow, Prime One, if you're listening, Queen, start doing this.
Yeah, we'd appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you everyone for watching. Please feel free to answer in the comments and come back next week to hear what other collectors had to say and for another hard-hitting question.